Hello, I'm Joe Facenda, Senior Vice President for Buying and Merchandising at Giant Eagle. Roberto Clemente was, without question, one of the greatest players to ever step onto a ball field. But he was much more than that. Roberto arrived in Pittsburgh from his native Puerto Rico in 1955, encountering both language and cultural barriers. Before his career ended, Roberto would rise above all these obstacles and become a respected leader, both on and off the field. Now, when we look back on his life more than 20 years after it tragically ended, it is fitting to give the terms humanitarian and ball player equal billing. And that's why in July of 1994, a statue in his honor will be dedicated at Three Rivers Stadium. All of us at Giant Eagle are proud to be a major contributor in building a statue for Roberto. And with your purchase of this video tribute, you too have become part of this great effort. And now, Roberto Clemente. How about it, kids?
Yeah!
Puerto Rico is the shining star of the Caribbean, but its natural beauty belies a sometimes turbulent past. Still, Puerto Ricans are an enduring people with a passion for music and literature and sports, especially baseball. Still today, there is but one baseball hero, Roberto Clemente, the kid from Carolina, who became the greatest right fielder the game of baseball has ever seen. His is not just the story of a ball player, but of a proud man and the people he loved.
When I was a little kid, I born to be a baseball player. This is something that I think about. The more I think about it, I'm convinced that God wants me to play baseball.
The Puerto Rico of the 40s and 50s provided the backdrop for Clemente's youth. The son of a sugarcane worker, Clemente loved baseball, and every chance he got, he would watch the Negro League teams that played on the island. His favorite player was Monty Irvin.
I first met Roberto Clemente in the early 40s in Puerto Rico. I used to play down there, and this is when I was in the old Negro Leagues. And he was just a youngster, and one day I let him carry my bag in order to get into the stadium. So we became friendly. Used to give him a ball. I don't know, I might have given him a glove that I had, but I never did see him play.
But in high school, people came from all over to see the talented Clemente. Fellow Puerto Rican Orlando Cepeda recalls.
I remember Roberto in 1952 or 51. He used to play amateur ball. Before that, he used to play softball. Everybody talked about him, how good he was. You know, he used to run track, throw the javelin, everything. He was a shortstop. So my father used to be the manager of a team called Juncos, a well-known team in Puerto Rico. Used to be like the Yankees. Everybody wants to play for Juncos team. The best player in the whole island wanted to play for the team. So we have a guy in shortstop, he was established. So he said, no, don't sign him, let him go back to play more ball because he's very talented. He came back 2 years later and played for the same team for Juncos. And then from Juncos, he signed with Santurce.
Clemente's first professional contract called for a $400 signing bonus and a weekly salary of $40. He had made the team on the strength of a tryout that was held by the Brooklyn Dodgers. At the urging of a local scout, Pedrin Zorilla, the Dodgers had sent their scout, Al Campanis, to see Clemente. One look was all it took. 2 years later, at 19, Clemente signed with the Dodgers and went to their AAA team in Montreal.
1954, Roberto's first year with us, he played with me at Montreal. We were on the same ball club, and I had to take care of him because he couldn't speak one word of English. He couldn't go get anything to eat. So he would wait for me in the morning until I woke up. And then when I would come down the lobby, he'd be sitting there waiting for me. He was hungry. and I'd have to take him to the restaurant and order his meals for him and everything.
But ordering food was the least of Roberto's problems. Since his signing bonus exceeded $4,000 and he was in the minors, he could be drafted by another team after the season. Hoping to avoid this, Brooklyn tried to hide him from other teams. But Branch Rickey, Pittsburgh's general manager, wasn't fooled by his former club. He knew all about Clemente, and since Pittsburgh had first pick in the draft, Rickey sent scout Howie Hake to Montreal to get a first-hand look at the young Roberto.
He wanted to play bad. He was very disappointed that he wasn't playing more, I know that. He wanted to play real bad.
They didn't play Clemente. He went to bat 4 times while I was there. And now he's into the playoffs.
When he was in the minor leagues with the Dodgers, if too many scouts came to the game, it was ridiculous. The Dodger manager didn't play him.
Roberto got mad because he'd have a good day and then he'd be on the bench the following day. They were hiding him. So one day Roberto left the stadium, went back to the hotel to get his stuff to come back to Puerto Rico.
But Hake tried to convince Roberto to stay.
So I went down to the hotel and he didn't speak too good English. I didn't know anything in Spanish. I mean, I'm trying to talk to him, come on back to the ballpark. If you want to play in the major leagues next year, you better come out to the ballpark with me. So I took him back to the ballpark. They never even missed him. By the time he got ready and got dressed, they were through with infield practice and ready to start the game.
When the season ended, Branch Rickey succeeded in stealing Clemente away from his former club. And for $4,000, the Pirates had bought themselves the man who would become the greatest right fielder in the game. In 1955, Clemente debuted with the Pirates. He was coming off his only minor league season and right away broke into the starting lineup. As a rookie, Roberto hit a modest .255, but he was full of talent, and his teammates saw a star in the making.
Well, I've always said, after playing with Bobby from 55 through 62, that Bobby Clemente was the greatest God-given talent I ever saw in a baseball diamond. There wasn't anything that he couldn't do as well, if not better, than anybody in the game that I have ever seen.
He impressed you from the beginning with his grace. He was a very graceful player. He was, that old cliche, poetry in motion.
But people don't realize Bobby was built like a Greek god. He had a waist about that big around and marvelous through the chest. Very strong shoulders, strong arms. Great timing, great instinct.
His hand looked like it was about twice as long as anybody else's. That's why he could throw the ball. He had such a wrist movement. And the same way with the bat. He had very good wrists to play ball.
He did all 4 things well immediately. He ran, he threw, he hit, and he fielded.
He had a totally different style than anybody. He ran different, he sort of galloped, and of course his basket catch was totally different then, and he was just different.
We were amazed at that outstanding arm. He used to gun that thing all the way from right field to home plate on the fly. And he liked to show it off a little bit, but I can recall, the guy had so much talent, we could see it, and really for a first-year man, he had a lot of confidence too.
But things did not go smoothly. Understandably enough, Clemente showed signs of immaturity on the field, and his already fierce sense of pride created some misunderstanding with Pirate teammates.
Early on in his career, there was a little bit of tension. I think because of the complaining and the immaturity of a youngster from a foreign country that really wasn't familiar with our ways and what we expected in this country.
A very sensitive individual, someone who I don't think was comfortable with his surroundings, particularly because I think of the language. While Roberto spoke English, he spoke with a much broader accent than he did later on. He had trouble making himself understood by a lot of people. And I think as a result, he was misunderstood by a lot of people.
I guess the best words I could use, when he first came up, had great ability, played well, played hard, but he was somewhat of a hot dog. Maybe he didn't run out of ball. He was known for that when he first came up. And then as he matured, he became the leader of the club, and the hot dog was gone. He just matured and became the guy that he was, and that he was destined to be.
Everybody looked at Roberto when he come up. He said, well, this guy's not the leader he should be. Well, for God's sake, he's 22 years old. I said, give the guy a chance. He became a great leader. I think it might have happened in the 1960 season with us, and it just started going like this.
In that 1960 season, Clemente batted .314 and drove in 94 runs. The Pirates had finally come together, getting a brilliant season from the league's batting champion, shortstop Dick Grote, who hit .325. Among the pitching stars were 20-game winner Vernon Law and reliever Elroy Face, who saved 24 games. As Pittsburgh won its first pennant in 33 years, a proud Clemente was more than ready to lead his upstart Pirates into the World Series against the heavily favored New York Yankees. To everyone's surprise, Pittsburgh was equal to the task. Clemente got a hit in every game and batted .310. His biggest hit coming in the 8th inning of Game 7 when the Pirates were down by 2.
Into the move, the 1-2 to Clemente. He swings the ground ball, totally hit off the first base side, charging and Coward. He makes the pickup, there'll be no play, and a run scored.
Moments later, reserve catcher Hal Smith sent Pirate fans into ecstasy.
And the 2-2 to Smith. He swings a long fly ball deep to left field. I don't know, it might go out of here. It is going, gone! Ford Field is at this moment an outdoor insane asylum. We have seen and shared in one of baseball's great moments.
But unbelievably enough, that moment was overshadowed in the bottom of the 9th when second baseman Bill Mazeroski cut loose.
Here's a swing and a high fly ball going deep to left. This may do it. Back to the wall goes Berra. It is over the fence, home run. The Pirates win.
Thanks to one swing of Mazeroski's bat, the Pirates, against overwhelming odds, were world champions. As his teammates reveled in their unlikely victory, Roberto Clemente was not among them. He had dressed and gone out into the October afternoon to be with the fans. I did not feel like a player at the time, he said. I felt like one of those persons, and I walked the streets among them.
I want to be with the people that pay my salary. Because I was with my players, I shake hands with them and everything like that. I talk to them that how happy I was and everything like that. But to me, I felt I want to be outside with the fans. So I was criticized for that.
While Clemente was thrilled at the Pirates' upset over the Yankees in the 1960 World Series, he was bitter at having been overlooked for the league's MVP. He had driven in 94 runs, nearly twice the amount driven in by the writer's choice, teammate Dick Grote. It wasn't so much that Grote won the award. It was that Clemente did not get the credit he felt he deserved.
Well, obviously, Bobby just felt that he didn't get a fair shake in the voting. But again, there were 3 Pirates that finished ahead of him. I finished first, and Hoke finished second, and Law finished 5th. And Bobby was highly insulted that he was 8th in the balloting, but there were never, although the news media wanted to make a big deal out of it, Bobby and I never once, in all the years we played together, had a crossword between us.
He said, they always said that I resented Grote not getting the MVP award. He said, I resented that I was voted 8th. I thought I shouldn't have been voted 8th.
It didn't really affect him. You know, he was disappointed that they're not recognizing me. I mean, what do I have to do and things like that. And so he just kept getting better. That's what he did.
So much better that the next season, Clemente hit .351 to win the batting crown. And nothing made him feel more appreciated than getting picked to both All-Star games that were held that year. He made the most of his appearance at the one in San Francisco's Candlestick Park when he came up in the bottom of the 10th.
The pitch by Wilhelm swung on, and there's the drive out to right center. This may be it. Harris chasing the ball. Here's Mays rounding third. He's coming home to score. And that's the ball game. Mays scores. And the ball game is over.
From then on, a proud Clemente wore only his 1961 All-Star ring. By now, the rest of baseball was taking notice of the Pirates' great right fielder. But with recognition came the onerous comparisons to the standards of the time: Aaron, Mays, and Mantle. Clemente wanted no part of such comparisons. He was simply Roberto Clemente, and his attitude was misconstrued by many in the press who felt that he was arrogant.
When a writer asked Roberto, tried to compare him and Willie Mays. And Clemente was very simple with his answer. He said, for me, when I put the uniform on, I am the best player of the game. But he didn't try to say he was better than Willie, or tried to put Willie down. So the next day in the paper, this guy wrote, Roberto Clemente say he's better than Willie Mays. And, things like that used to make Roberto real mad, and I don't blame him.
I think there is a necessary ego on the part of any competitive athlete. I think without ego, you lack confidence. Ego really is a belief in yourself, a supreme belief in yourself. And Roberto had that. I don't think he was arrogant on a personal level, but he respected his own ability more than anybody else did, because he recognized that if you don't, nobody else will.
In Clemente's eyes, he could do nothing right where the press was concerned. He felt misunderstood and underappreciated, and he was cocky and difficult.
He used to get quoted in the paper when he was a young player, and it was always, with all phrases like Latin, and he never, like if he say the D's or something like that, they'd put it in, he'd say, and he'd say, they didn't do it with the American players when they spoke bad English, poor English, something, and they always put him in. He resented that. It hurt him because he was quoted like he couldn't speak English, you know what I mean, and he could.
One of the biggest rubs with the media was over Clemente's health. He'd been hurt in a car accident in 1954, and throughout his career was bothered by back problems. There were other ailments too, and manager Danny Murtaugh had no patience for Clemente's complaints. Neither did writers who weren't used to hearing players talk of their aches and pains.
When you asked Roberto how he felt, how are you, Roberto? He thought you wanted to know. So if he had a headache, or his knee was sore, or he twisted his ankle, he'd say, I have a headache, or I twisted my knee. Everybody thought, well, he's always talking about how he's injured. But if you don't want to know how he felt, don't ask him, how are you, Roberto? This just wasn't a pleasantry in his mind. This was a question that you wanted an answer to.
Clemente answered his critics on the ball field. Playing the only way he knew how, he gave his all every step of the way. By the end of 1964, he had hit 300 or better 6 times, won 2 batting crowns, and with his now famous right arm, had won 4 consecutive Gold Gloves. After the 1964 season, Roberto's life was about to fill up even more. The previous winter in Puerto Rico, he had met a woman from his hometown of Carolina. Though Clemente barely spoke with Vera Zavala, when he saw her in a local drugstore, he knew even then he wanted to marry her.
That day when he saw me at the drugstore, his mother told me that he went back home and he told her that he saw the girl that he will marry. And she asked him who was this girl, and he said, no, I don't know her, but I will marry her. Very, secure that he will marry me. We married the same year, November 14, 1964.
It was a storybook wedding, the most famous man in Puerto Rico and the most beautiful woman. And all of Carolina, it seemed, turned out.
There were over 1,000 people in that wedding. I remember they closed the main street of Carolina. The plaza was full of people, the same the church and around the church. And the celebration was in fraternity in Rio Piedras, in Cupey. That was an event, I will never forget it.
A year later, their first child, Roberto Jr., was born. Within the next 4 years, 2 more sons came along. If Clemente's life on the baseball field was stressful, his life as a father and husband seemed to relax him. The Clemente kids became a fixture at the ballpark in Pittsburgh, and family friends remember how he felt having to leave them to go on road trips.
He was sorry that he could not spend more time with them. That's the only thing.
What used to get him worse than anything, the baby, Ricky, was the youngest one, and he would cry because he was smaller and he didn't understand. His father would be going away, getting on a plane or something, and he'd cry and make a fuss, you know. And that used to pull the heart right out of Roberto. He'd say, you see, I have to suffer, he said, to go play this baseball, he says, and I can't be with my family and everything. He says, that bothers me, you know, and it did too.
Clemente's love for children was a guiding force in his life. In addition to his own, he embraced children everywhere. In the winters in Puerto Rico, he would give coaching clinics and spend time talking with kids. As much as Clemente loved his adopted home of Pittsburgh, his true love was Puerto Rico, and the people of Puerto Rico adored him. He couldn't walk down the street without getting a hug or a handshake.
He always was proud to be Puerto Rican. I even have to fly from Pittsburgh to Puerto Rico for our children to born here. He didn't want them to born in Pittsburgh. He wanted them to born here where we born.
I can't think of any other player that I've ever played with that had that much pride. He was proud to be Puerto Rican. He was proud to be Roberto Clemente.
I love people, and I love the minority people. I love people that they are not big shot. I like common people. I like workers. I like people that suffer, because these people, they have a different approach of life, of the people that they really have everything in life, that sometimes they get bored because they have everything and they don't know what suffering is in life.
In 1965, Clemente won his second straight batting title, his third overall, and yet he felt he was still under-recognized.
When I came to Pittsburgh in 1966, Jimmy Cannon was a big New York sports writer, one of the best respected men, and he said to me in '66, you're going to a town that may have the greatest player in the game when nobody knows it.
But opponents knew full well who Clemente was. He didn't have the power of Mays or Aaron, but he played a style of baseball few players had ever seen. His own scouting report didn't offer pitchers much hope.
No, they always pitch me the same way. I don't know how they pitch to me. They don't know how they're going to pitch to me. They pitch me one way, and most of the time they try to keep the ball away from me and come inside lots of time with inside pitch on me and then go away again. They've been pitching me the same way for 12 years. I don't think they're going to change now. I don't think so.
My book on pitching to Clemente was that you wanted to drive him back off of the plate. When he started falling away, make sure he kept falling away, and then go down and away with him. But establish enough in here where you try and take that left shoulder and make it follow that left leg. If you didn't, look out.
Clemente needed one more dimension to his game to become a true superstar: power. He found it in 1965 under the Pirates' new manager, Harry Walker.
Harry convinced Roberto that it was fine to be a great player, but that wasn't good enough, that he should strive to be what he could be, and that was the greatest player in the game. And Roberto would hit line drives in the right field, and Harry would say, that's not good enough. Hit home runs the opposite way. Well, the 2 years that Harry managed Roberto were the 2 finest years that he ever had. He drove in over 100 runs both years, something he hadn't done before. He hit many more home runs than he ever hit before. And it was during that stage of Roberto's career that he blossomed into the great player, because he finally realized and believed that he could be the best.
In 1966, his second season under Walker, Clemente won the elusive MVP. That he now ranked among the game's best players was a given. In fact, he would compile a higher batting average in the decade than either Hank Aaron or Willie Mays. His fellow Latin American players had found a hero.
Clemente and I, we played together for about 6 years, from 1963 to 1968. But in my opinion, to me, Roberto Clemente was the best player I ever seen playing this game.
To me, he was the Jackie Robinson of the Latin. He was not the first Latin, but he was the one guy who spoke, who rose to the occasion. He had the credentials to do it.
Clemente was the best
human being I ever met and being close to, because I remember when I came to the big league, he talked to me, said, Manny, you here, you like me. No matter how long I'm being here, you just like me. So don't feel no scared or anything. Just do it the best you can. If you need anything, just ask me. I help you.
By now, Clemente was a leader, not just to the young Latin players, but to the whole team. And the national recognition that eluded him for so long was now coming his way.
He was the 1966 National League's most valuable player, and he's won the National League batting title 4 times. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Roberto Clemente.
Chatting on the Mike Douglas Show was one thing, but hitting into a triple play for the movie The Odd Couple was another. Clemente's pride would not allow it.
The player who hit into triple play was Bill Mazeroski. The reason it was Bill Mazeroski was, Roberto says, I'm not hitting into triple play for anybody, not even on not for movies, not for nothing, not for what you give me. So they had to get Mazeroski at the last minute.
To be sure, Clemente had his pride. And while he was a hero to Puerto Ricans, who called him El Magnifico, he also had legions of fans in the right field seats in Pittsburgh. No one knew better than Pirate fans what a player Clemente was. His great range, his sliding catches against the fence, and of course, his arm. An arm that had no equal, not then and not since. If Clemente was aging, it was impossible to notice.
Clemente performed so well that even if you felt like you weren't as talented or as gifted as him, that it was kind of embarrassing not to try. And I think he lifted you a little bit by just trying to keep up with him in terms of effort.
No less a hitter at age 36, Clemente hit .352 in 1970 and led the Pirates to a division title, the first of 3 in a row. Meanwhile, Clemente continued to pile up the milestones, among them 12 gold gloves. In 1971, he played in his 14th All-Star game and put on a memorable show.
Clemente has been the hottest batter in the majors the last 3 weeks. He's hitting .461 in his last 20 games. The 1-1 pitch. Let up, high, ball 2, 2-1.
Clemente looked like he turned to Frank Umont, the plate umpire, and saying, yeah, let him get that one down in the strike zone. It looked like he was fooled much on the changeup.
Same pitch and high, ball 3. Clemente said, why wasn't that in the strike zone? I'd like to have that one. It's a high fly into deep right center. Amos Otis way back. That one's going, and it is gone. Almost in the same spot as Johnny Bench.
By now, the 37-year-old Clemente was closing in on milestone hit number 3,000. And in a pregame interview with Richie Ashburn, he was strangely prophetic about it.
How soon can you get your 3,000 hit? I know you're a little way from it, but you're going to take a good beat on it, I think, next year, won't you?
Well, you never know. If I'm alive, like I said before, you never know because God tells you how long you're going to be here. So you never know what can happen tomorrow. I would say that if everything goes well, I should get it before the All-Star game next year.
Danny Murtaugh's 1971 Pirates had a powerhouse lineup that featured Manny Sanguillen, Willie Stargell, Al Oliver, Dave Cash, Roberto Clemente, Richie Hebner, and Bob Robertson. Pittsburgh outscored and out-homered every other team in the league, and in beating the Giants in the playoffs, went to its first World Series in 11 years. When the series opened in Baltimore, no one gave the Pirates much of a chance against a team that had 4 20-game winners. But a nationwide audience was about to see Pittsburgh's great star put on the show of his life.
Number 21, Roberto Clemente.
Somehow I never thought that Clemente
could possibly be under-recognized because he was such a wonderful, such a talented ball player, but I think he was. And I think maybe he sensed that the shadows were growing long, and maybe this was the time to let people really see how good he was. I mean, the people in baseball had no question about this talent. This was an extraordinary talent. Everybody wanted him, would love to have had him playing right field for them. But I think somehow he sensed that he had the stage here, and he'd take it.
Roberto Clemente hit .341 this year, 13 homers, 86 runs batted in. They're playing Clemente way over in right center. Rettman in right center, seam there, and Frank Robinson toward the right field line. Most clubs in the National League pitch Clemente outside. There's a drive into deep right center. Frank Robinson going back, and that ball's off the wall. Clemente digging for two, and he's in there with a stand-up double to the opposite field. Typical Clemente hit.
It wasn't just Clemente's offense that was shaking heads everywhere.
There's a high fly on the right. Long chase for Clemente. Gallops over. Grabs it, whirls. Here's Rettman coming to throw. What a throw! He just beat it in. Boy, Clemente, although his club has lost the opening game, and behind right now is putting on a one-man show.
What a magnificent throw from Clemente, and he had all sorts of trouble picking the ball up and getting to it, and then to come out of it with a throw that you're going to watch again. Look at this to third base.
Fans across the country were now finding out what the people of Pittsburgh knew all along.
Look at this.
The plays that Roberto made in the World Series, and the hits that he got, and the exuberance that he showed, the passion that he showed for the game, was nothing new. That was constant, and had been for a number of years. It was the first time, really, that Roberto had been able to exhibit to a national-wide audience, not just the media, but the public. And I think a lot of people thought, my word, what, where does this fella coming from? Does he do that all the time? Well, yes, he did.
Even with Clemente's heroic efforts, the Orioles dominated, winning the first two games by a combined score of 16-6. But as the series moved to Pittsburgh, the Pirates refused to buckle under.
After the second game, Roberto very calmly just told the media, you have not seen the real Pittsburgh Pirate team, but I'm sure you will see them before this series is over, and we'll be back.
And who else would bring them back but Clemente? In Game 3, his ground ball in the first inning helped the Pirates jump out to a 1-0 lead. And then in the 7th, he broke the game open with his 37-year-old legs.
He didn't want to do that one. A bobble by Cuellar. And he throws high. Error, Cuellar.
Well, there again is why in sports there's no substitute for speed. This is just a little tapper. But as Cuellar goes to field this ball, he knows he has to hurry against Clemente. So he pushes the throw, pulls Powell off the bag.
He took off at first with such fervor that somehow it seemed to distract the pitcher from making a perfectly ordinary play. He made a bad throw to first, and Clemente got on first. I don't know how he did it to this day. There was other people wouldn't have done it. He did it. It was just Clemente, and that was an important runner for the Pirates.
Clemente had set the stage for Bob Robertson.
That ball's hit very deep to right field. It's going way back. It is gone.
Robertson's 3-run homer put the game out of reach. And in winning, the Pirates broke Baltimore's 16-game win streak. Game 4 was the first World Series game ever played under the lights. And with an estimated 61 million fans watching at home, Clemente was again in the spotlight.
Long drive to right field, slicing, and it's a foul ball.
And Clemente is going down to argue with the right field umpire, John Rice, and there goes the first base coach, Don Leppert. They thought that ball hit the foul pole for a home run.
After about 5 minutes of arguing, he comes back to home plate and hits a line drive. Most hitters would have been furious, thinking about what just happened. But he came right back and got a hit.
Spurred on by Clemente, Pittsburgh won the game on a Milt May single in the 7th inning and evened the series at 2 games apiece. No one expected such a comeback by the Pirates. They were riding a wave, and amazingly enough, it would rise even higher.
Are in the lead in this game.
Hold on Buford's real long lead.
Nellie Briles pitched a two-hitter in Game 5, beating the Orioles 4-0. The Pirates now led the series 3-2, and the momentum was all theirs.
World Series 4-0. And now the World Series goes back.
It was back to Baltimore for Game 6, and once again the stage belonged to Pittsburgh's man of the hour, who continued to amaze Oriole announcer Chuck Thompson.
Just impressed me so much that I'll never forget Clemente. He can do everything so well. He runs well. He's got a magnificent arm. Defensively, he does it all. And what a hitter. Now, that's not to say that Mays and Aaron are any less than a Clemente, but certainly, how could they be any better? We're watching Buford, and he cannot get to it. Here is Clemente again, on his way for 3. Belanger off the mark, and Clemente has tripled.
Boy, how that man can run for 37 years old. Here's his swing now.
The Pirates couldn't score Clemente then, but when he came to bat in the top of the third, he didn't need any help in making the score 2-0.
Right, and back Frank Robinson up to the wall several times.
Well, Frank's got to make a move on this one. It's gone. Home run Clemente, and the Pirates 2, the Orioles nothing. And what a magnificent performance from Pittsburgh's right fielder, the great Roberto Clemente.
As he had been throughout the series, Clemente was brilliant in the clutch. In the bottom of the ninth, he fielded a Don Buford double, and then unleashed a perfect throw to keep the Orioles from winning the game.
Comes up with it. Belanger stops at third. Buford goes down to second as the throw comes home.
As it turned out, the game went into extra innings. The Orioles struck back, winning the game on a sacrifice fly to score Frank Robinson.
Watching Frank at third. Davalillo is under it and shallow. Davalillo's catch. Frank is coming. Here comes the throw. He scores. And the Orioles...
And to everyone's surprise, the series would go down to a final 7th game. Game 7 was a scoreless pitcher's duel until the man who had been tormenting the Orioles all series came up in the 4th.
That is hit well. A Clemente home run, and the Pirates lead 1-0.
It was Clemente's 12th hit of the series, one short of Bobby Richardson's all-time series record of 13. In the 8th inning, with the score still 1-0, the Pirates broke through again.
68 average. Runner going. There's a fly ball to deep left center. Rettman chasing it. Drags it down. Stargell is being waved around. Here comes the throw, and Willie Stargell, it's cut off. Boot Powell cut it off, and Stargell, who was running on the pitch, scores all the way from first base. And Pagan has a double.
1 inning later, Steve Blass, who had been dazzling in the series, finished off the Orioles for good.
So far today, and he's leading 2-1. There's a drive up the middle. Hernandez in back of the bag. He's got him, Jackie Hernandez. Look at Blass. Blass has pitched the Pirates to the World Championship. The Pirates, 2 games down, have come back.
This time, the post-game celebration included Clemente, and he shared the moment with his longtime friend, Bob Prince.
And here with me right now, the greatest right fielder in the game of baseball, Roberto Clemente. Bobby, congratulations on a great World Series.
Thank you, Bob. And before I say anything in English, I would like to say something for my mother and father in Spanish. En el día más grande de mi vida, para los nenes, la bendición mía y que mis padres me echen mi bendición en Puerto Rico.
I guess for people that remember that interview, it shows the proud man he was and how proud he was to be Puerto Rican. He asked for his parents' blessings, my grandparents' blessings, and told the Latin American people, mostly Puerto Ricans, that it was for them. It was a proud moment for all of us, what had just occurred. That's to show that he gave it all for baseball and the Latin American people.
It was like he had to make sure that all the Latin countries be represented through himself, and he wanted to display his talents, his ability, his true love of the game, and believe me, that was his moment of glory.
In the series, Clemente batted .414, and finally got the respect he had been seeking. His performance inspired Roger Angel to write, "Now and again, very rarely, we see a man who seems to have met all the demands, challenged all the implacable averages, spurned the mere luck. He has defied baseball, even altered it, and for a time at least, the game is truly his." Entering the 72 season, Clemente needed 118 hits to reach 3,000, but injuries slowed him, and he was still one hit shy on the second to last day.
Everybody set, and they want Bobby to get that big number 3,000. I think manager Bill Burton would like to see it come right about now, too, so he can get him out of the lineup and let him rest. Matlack on the 0-1. Bobby hits a drive into the gap in the left center field. There she is.
It was just as it should be, just a classic picture. A ringing double to left center field. He just pulls up very comfortably in second base, and just the very essence of dignity and pride, standing there with the hands on hips, very naturally, nothing is staged, and he is the king right there.
He wanted 3,000 hits because he's gonna be the first Spanish player ever, to get a 3,000 hit. And he was the happy guy in the whole world. He don't show in the field, but after the ball game is over, you can see the rejoice and the happiness, and he was really unbelievable happy.
At age 38, Clemente had hit .312 and led the Pirates into their third straight postseason. But in Game 5 of the playoffs, they were devastated in the bottom of the ninth.
The bench, change, hit in the air to deep right field. Back goes Clemente at the fence. She
Johnny Bench's homer tied it. And then one out from extra innings, Reds fans erupted when Bob Moose's wild pitch gave Cincinnati the pennant. Pittsburgh was crushed, but Clemente tried to soften the blow.
He came around to everybody's locker. Keep your head up, keep your head up. We are a very good baseball team, and we had a terrific year. And, you know that, but you're sitting there, and here's a guy, we all know that and we feel that, but here's a guy who has the wherewithal, the inspiration, however you want to say it, to take time to go around to everybody's locker and say that. It's not going to change your life, but, here we are 21 years later, and then you remember stuff like that.
No one knew it then, but that would be the last game Clemente ever played.
And this is something that to me, this is my biggest worry, is to live, to my kids to be a person, everybody, when they look at them, respect them, and they vice versa, they respect the people.
On December 23, 1972, an earthquake hit Nicaragua, killing thousands and leaving tens of thousands homeless. The month before, Clemente was here managing an amateur team. He loved the people, and in trying to help, went on Puerto Rican TV and made a plea for donations.
Pusieron el corazón de Nicaragua a los pies de los puertorriqueños.
We treat him like a king down there in Nicaragua because he deserved that. He was one of the hero in Latin American. So he didn't hesitate. He really appreciated what we did for him when he was down there, that he was willing to do whatever he was capable to do to help us.
The feedback he was getting from Nicaragua was that Somoza's militia was taking possession of the goods that were being sent down and selling them to the needy. And I recall clearly he says, "Hey, I am Roberto Clemente. If I go there, they won't do that to me."
The man of the people was true to his word. On the night of December 31st, Clemente boarded a plane full of supplies, despite a premonition from Roberto Jr.
I told him not to leave. I said, I asked him if he was leaving. I said not to leave because the plane was going to crash. I told him, I repeated that 3 times. They kind of, screamed at me because of saying that. I cried for a while and went outside. He came out, he gave me a hug and a kiss, and he said that he would see me when he got back. And that was it. That was the end of it.
The DC-7 plane, rumored to be in poor condition, plunged into the sea just after takeoff, about 1.5 miles offshore. Puerto Rico's beloved Clemente was gone.
The whole house was full of people. I'm like, what's going on? You know, I didn't realize what happened at the time. Till finally we walked in my mother's room, and you know, that was it. You know, my mom grabbed us. She was crying. All my, my close family was there, and for a while, I'll be honest with you, for a while I thought, you know, I didn't really realize what really happened, and then I would cry by myself when I realized that I would never see him again.
Back in Pittsburgh, the reaction was equally devastating.
It was like a morgue in the office, but the telephones never quit. Fans just had to call and express themselves in some way. They had to do something. They just had to call and say something to somebody. They had to be consoled in their own way. And the mail that we got in was just volumes and volumes of mail and tributes in poems and letters and in whatever way. It was a very tough time for a lot of people.
The Pirates chartered a plane for Puerto Rico, where they paid their respects to a man who had touched so many lives.
It was a real loss to a lot of us when we all got word that New Year's Eve evening, how he had given up the most sacred holiday for Puerto Ricans, because that's the time they share a special moment with their families. And yet he was sensitive enough to break a tradition and go and help out people who were in need. It doesn't surprise me that a hero like himself and a tremendous humanitarian to go the way he did.
To this day, I don't believe, you know, Edom was there. I don't believe that I don't see him. I don't believe that I don't see the voice. And I don't believe that I'm able to see the face.
He wanted me to, take a look at what was going on for guys that's coming up, and to try to show those individuals the way he showed me. And, his death was a tragic thing, and it kind of hurt me because I had gotten really close to him, But he brought the winning attitude, It's like we're gonna win every day, and that's what he did.
Eight months after the crash, Clemente was inducted into the Hall of Fame, the first Latin American player so honored. In 18 years, he batted .317, was an All-Star 14 times, and won 12 Gold Gloves. That day in August 1973, Clemente was inducted alongside his boyhood hero, Monty Irvin. How proud Roberto would have been. The legacy of Puerto Rico's beloved hero lives on at Roberto Clemente Sports City in his hometown of Carolina. This facility for the underprivileged children of Puerto Rico had been Clemente's great dream.
The essence behind the Sports City was not necessarily to create world-renowned athletes. His main idea behind the Sports City was to utilize the Sports City as a vehicle, as a medium, to get the families together in the off time and to give life once again to what a true family should be.
Under Vera Clemente's direction, Sports City has become a source of pride to Puerto Ricans, including those who grew up to play in the majors. They come to give coaching clinics and to pass along what they learned from Clemente.
is not only to be a great player, it's also to be a great person. I think so he was a great person, and he was a good spokesperson for all the kids. And that's why we are here now. We're here to help the kids, to teach them how to play the game, to teach them what you go through in the minor leagues, what you go through in baseball. This is not an easy job.
Clemente is not here to see what his dream has come to, but in life, he transcended the world of sports and tried to make a difference. As he said himself, if you have the opportunity to make things better and you don't, you're wasting your time on this earth. His life was about the business of caring, and he lived it the only way he knew how, helping others and trying to make sense of his own destiny. A search that took the form of these words jotted down one Father's Day. Who am I? I am a small point in the eye of the full moon. I only need one ray of the sun to warm my face. I only need one breeze from the Alisios to refresh my soul. What else can I ask if I know that my sons really love me?